Handicapper Steve here, handicapping the racing from Lingfield Park here on Saturday. It is the 13th of May, 2023. Gonna look at the stakes action from Lingfield, but before I get on to that, remember to please follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Kid 5 for more selections for race courses around the world, and join me tomorrow for my French 2,000 and 1,000 guineas preview, the Poulines and the Pouliches. So if you want to hear me butcher the French language, you better join me tomorrow because it's going to be very interesting with that. And the racing's good, but my French is horrible. So join me for tomorrow's preview of those races. But I think my English is slightly better, just ever so slightly. So we're gonna look at these stakes action races from Lingfield, the 225, the 3 o'clock, and the feature 335. It's one of my favorite fixtures of the year. It's one of my favorite Derby trials. So let's look at these races. Starting off with the second race at 225, it's the Group 3 Chartwell Stakes. It's a fillies listed stakes for Class 1 horses, going for a $72,000 purse race for 3-year-olds and upwards, fillies and mares only. We have a field here of 8 horses going 1,400 meters or 7 furlongs on the all-weather poly track. I'm going to take the 4-horse Sacred as a top selection. Let's go 4-5-2 in your tri-cash trifecta. 4-5-2 tri-cash trifecta, top selection of 4-horse Sacred. This 5-year-old mare by Exceed and Excel. William Haggis trains. Ryan Moore gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came 7th of October at Newmarket. 7 furlongs in the Group 2 Challenge Stakes, and the horse finished second by 1 1/4 lengths. Pogo had the jump on this horse, but this horse, he was staying the trip well. He had a decent turn of foot. He just couldn't catch him, but he ran his heart out that day. It was one of his better races of the season. Refreshing here to the poly track off the bench, not the world's toughest horses. I think back facing the mare, she could get the job done and run a good race here today. 2 back in the listed stakes at Newbury on the 16th of September. 7 furlongs on good ground. The horse won by 6.5 lengths that day, and she stalked, she quickened up, and she went away with it. That was a very good run. And then prior to that, in the Group 2 City of York Stakes at York, 7 furlongs, 20th of August, could have been a Group 1. One of these seasons, it's going to become a Group 1, but this horse, she finished 6 by 6 1/4 lengths. She got outclassed by the others. Ken Ross freak that day. This horse just wasn't getting into it there. And then the Group 2 Lennox Stakes at Goodwood, 7 furlongs, 26th of July. First off the month and a half refreshing. She finished 5th by 1/2 lengths that day, and she just needed something more that day. In the Platinum Jubilee, she finished 5th by length. Again, the few in front of her were better than her. She probably needed the race first off the bench. And then the summer of 2021, she won the Hungerford Stakes very nicely by length. She gets Ryan Moore up today. Tom Marquand, I believe, is riding up at Haydock this afternoon. So Ryan Moore up shouldn't be a problem. Not to knock Marquand, but Ryan Moore has had a great week so far at Chester, so hopefully he can keep the momentum going here to Lingfield today. I'm going to use this horse on the ticket. I think your second likeliest one is the 5-horse Sandrine for Ocean Murphy. Most recently the Prix de la Forêt, the premier 7 furlong race for horses in Europe. The horse finished 9th by 10 lengths, beat 1 horse home. This horse just wasn't getting into it. Ken Rush, great horse. Prior to that, he got somewhat close to Ken Rush. Finished 3rd by 2 3/4 lengths that day. And again, she was under the drive. She needed something more late, but she got beat by classier males that day. And then the Lennox Stakes, she won by a neck, beating Ken Ross home that day. The turn of foot was electric. A very good run there. And then a decent 3rd in the Falmouth. Coming to the 4-year-old debut, it wouldn't surprise me if she gets a good trip. At 5-2, we'll use her on the ticket, but I do think Sacred's your very likeliest winner. To recap my selection for the 225 now, the second race from Lingfield, it's the Group 3 Chartwell Stakes. Let's take the 4-horse Sacred. Give kudos to the 5-horse Sandrine. 4-5-2, tri-cash trifecta. 4-5 in your multi-race. The third race at 3 o'clock, it's the co-featured Oaks Trial Stakes. It's a fillies listed stakes for Class 1 horses, going for a $54,000 purse race for 3-year-old fillies. Field of 9 horses going 2,400 meters or a mile and a half on the poly track. As you know, these races were supposed to be run on the turf course, but because of all the rain they had, I believe Tuesday's card I was watching, that's when they had the downpour, thunderstorms. Course just got really oversaturated, heavy standing waters in places, and they had to postpone the turf races to run them on the poly track, which I don't think is half bad. It's the first time in nearly a decade since they've done it. And the horse that, if you want to go back to the last time they ran these races on the poly track, the winner of the Derby trial was Main Sequence. He didn't do wonders in the UK, but when he came here to the States, he was a British Cup turf winner for Grand Motion and John Velasquez. A great horse. I keep talking more about him, but that's for another day. But here in the Oaks trial, my top selection, I'm going to go with the number 8 horse, Perfect Profit. 8-1-4 for me in your tri-cash trifecta. 814 Tricast Trifecta, top selection 8 horse Perfect Profit, through a filly by Nathaniel. Ed Walker trains, Ocean Murphy gets the mount. The horse's most recent outing came the Group 2 May Hill Stakes at Doncaster, 1 mile on the 8th of September, and the horse finished third by 4.5 lengths. She was moving a little bit late. She had an okay turn of foot. I don't think she wanted to go the mile, but she got around the race course well. She wants to go the mile and a half. She's a good inside poster. She could be forwardly paced. She is stepping up in some serious class, but I think she could get the job done and win here today. Two back in a Phillies novice race at Kempton, 1 mile 16th of August. She won by a neck that day, and she stalked. She wanted to go. They had a little bit of a tight hold on her, but when she had the turn of foot, she went away with it. A very good race there. And then the 21st of July, Newbury, 7 furlongs in a Class 4 of Maine's Phillies race. Finished 7 by 14 lengths that day, and she was just a little bit too close to that fast pace. Trying to kind of hit the wall late. It wasn't her day to win, but I think with every single race, she's definitely improving. Going to the mile and a half, which she's bred for with a Nathaniel on the sire side. I think she's sitting in that good run. I'm going to use her. Don't throw out the O'Brien and Coolmore horse. Be happy. 3-0 Filly by Camelot. Ryan Moore's on this one. Most recently in the Group 3 Penelope Stakes at St. Cloud, mile and a quarter, 1st of April. She finished third by 3.25 lengths that day. It was just a little bit flat that day. I did back her, and she just needed something more. Second off the bench to a mile and a half. She should do a lot better. Prior to that, in the Stratford Stud Stakes at the Curran in September, she finished 5th by 3.25 lengths, and again, she won a longer trip there. And went on debut in Philly's main race at Cork very nicely a couple weeks prior. Another horse bred for a mile and a half. She's going to get it today. She could be forwardly paced. It wouldn't surprise me. We'll use her on the ticket. But to recap my selection for the 3 o'clock, the third race from Lingfield, it's the Oaks Trial. Let's take the 8 horse Perfect Profit. Give kudos to the 1 horse Be Happy. 814 Tricast Trifecta. 8-1 in your place pod or your quad pod. Quad pod begins with this race, so go 8-1. Let's go to the 4th race, feature 335. It is the Lingfield Derby Trial. It's a listed stakes for Class 1 horses, going for a $72,000 purse race for 3-year-olds here. 8 horses are going 2,400 meters or a mile and a half on the poly track. My top selection here, I'm going to go with the 1 horse Circle of Fire. I'm going to go 145 in your Tricast Trifecta. 145 Tricast Trifecta. Top selection 1 horse Circle of Fire. And before I go any further, I am shocked that this race isn't at least a Group 3, because the horses that have been coming out of this race the last few seasons have been quite nicely running these good races as the season goes on. So hopefully one of these years they could bring it back up to a Group 3, because Anthony Van Dyke won this a few years ago, went on to win the Derby. Dayar, I believe, he didn't win in this race. I believe he placed in this race a couple seasons ago, went on to win the Derby. Great horse after that. And a couple other horses have come out of this race and, have done great stuff. So, when I think of Derby trials in the UK, I always think of, the first thing that comes to mind is the Dante, and this is the second one. So, Dante's next week, so join me for that. And third, for some reason, is that final Derby trial at Goodwood the week before the Derby, which I think is in 2 weeks, something like that. That Goodwood race. I can't think of it off the top of my head. The Coked Hat Stakes, something like that. Is that what it is? But back to Lingfield. Back to my top selection, 1 horse Circle of Fire, owned by His Majesty the King and Her Majesty the Queen. Sir Michael Stout trains. Ryan Moore's on this 3-year-old colt by Almanzor. Most recently, ran the horse on the 5th of May at Newmarket, a mile and a quarter in the listed stakes last Friday. And the horse finished second by 2 3/4 lengths that day. Off the bench, they needed him to get a race. He got it. He stalked down the race course. He needed something more late, but he didn't have it. He's coming here second off the bench to a slower mile and a half, which he's bred for through and through. I think he could get the trip to win. On debut, he ran the 1st of September at Salisbury, a mile in a Class 4 novice race, and the horse went by 3 1/4 lengths that day. And he sat back early. He was a little bit wide, but when he got the turn of foot, he got the job done. A very good race for him there. And then on debut on quite fast ground at Leicester, 7 furlongs in a Class 4 novice race, he finished third by 5 lengths that day. He was moving a little bit late, but it was just a little bit too late. Like I said, he wants a mile and a half. He's going to get it. He's coming off a quick turnaround, which shouldn't be a problem. I think this horse could really run a good race. You can't throw out the 4 horse Military Order, 3-year-old colt by Frankel, Godolphin Charlie Alpby trains, William Buick gets the mount. Most recently, 3 weeks ago at Newbury, a mile and a quarter in a Class 2 novice race. The horse went by 4 lengths and had the speed from the inside, and they never got to the bottom of the horse. He won for fun. A very good race off the bench with a high weight of 134 pounds. Late October was his previous race at Newmarket, a mile in a Class 2 novice race, and he finished third. He won by 3/4 in length that day. He had to beat quite a lot that day, but he found the winner's enclosure on the front and a good race after all is said and done. And then early October at Newmarket, 7 furlongs in a Class 4 main race, finished 4th by 2 1/4 lengths that day. He was was very bad at 80 cents to the dollar. He just never quickened up. Another horse, I think going to a longer trip should suit him well. I know he's going to get bent to the ground, but he's another very likely winner. We'll use him in the quad pod. But to recap my selection for the 335, the feature fourth race from Lingfield, it is the Lingfield Derby Trial. We're going to take the one horse Circle of Fire, give kudos to the four horse Military Order, 145 Tricast Trifecta, 1-4 in your multi race. So good luck to all. Remember to join me for my French 2000 1000 Guineas preview tomorrow, and follow me on Twitter at Horse Racing Cat 5 for more selections for race courses around the world. Good luck, everybody.